Welcome and thanks for joining us today for the Emerald Laser webinar. It looks like we already have quite a bit of doctors on, so we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like we have a blank screen. So this one was the presenters. So the first half of the PowerPoint will be going over the research of the Emerald Laser. That's going to include Steve Shanks, the president of Erchonia, and myself. Together, we run the clinical department of Erchonia lasers. After we're done, we're actually going to hand this off to Cesar Lara, who has been a long-term owner and user of the Emerald Laser in his clinic here in Florida. He actually owns multiple clinics. One thing we did send out a pre-webinar survey to collect questions that you would like us to ask Dr. Lara. We did get great feedback. I have over a dozen questions here. But any time, if you end up thinking of another question, feel free to type it in to the tab there and we'll make sure to get that answer for you as well. All right, for those of that are unaware, the Emerald Laser is manufactured by Erchonia Corporation. Erchonia is by far the world leader in low-level laser technology with 18 FDA clearances. In 2002, we became the first low-level laser to receive an FDA clearance. That was for neck and shoulder pain. In 2010, we became the first laser to receive an FDA clearance for non-invasive fat loss. So I'm going to pass this to Steve, and I'll let him kind of talk about or give a quick summary of what it meant or took to get an FDA clearance, as well as what it took to actually create new product codes with the FDA.
Like Travis said, we've been doing research on low-level laser therapy from 1998. Our first neck and shoulder study, we had to do 2 blinded and controlled clinical trials. Because of the category that we're in, there is no substantial equivalence. So we do have to do data with the FDA, blinded and controlled clinical trials, level 1, double-blind, randomized, multi-site, and placebo-controlled. What most people don't know is we were actually 510K'd a month before Zeltiq or Coolsculpting. Their claim is they can affect appearance of fat. We have a reduction claim. So for a reduction claim, we had to do a blinded and controlled clinical trial. For theirs, which we'll go through some of the research and we'll kind of explain to you how they got their clearance compared to our clearance. And we're just going to guide, we'll go through some of the competition fairly quick.
Awesome. So here's a quick look at our headquarters located in Melbourne, Florida. One thing we do take pride in is the ability to be self-reliant. So we build everything in-house. 85% of the device, we are self-reliant. That starts at the machine shop, all the way through the production area into our quality assurance program.
And everything is assembled here on site in Melbourne.
Exactly. And then one thing you'll come to find out with Erchonia, our devices are unique. And what I mean by that, we just did another webinar on our pain devices. And within that field, you'll see a lot of companies offering the exact same device, but they're just sticking their own brand name on the device. That's not the case here. We are the sole manufacturer and distributor of the device. But we'll go ahead and jump into the non-invasive fat loss market. Within the market, you really have 3 technologies or 3 different treatment options. One is non-invasive laser. The other 2 will be destroying the fat cell either through freezing or through heat. So let's just take a quick look at what's on the market.
So this is the second device for the non-invasive fat category was Coolsculpting. This they were 9/2010. We were 8/2010. You can see this device is indicated to affect appearance of fat on the abdomen and flanks. So ours is a little bit different. Ours is actually measurable. So how they did their clinical trial, which we'll kind of go through some of the research, is they took pictures and treated one side and did not treat the other. And through those pictures, basically the doctor would guess who got the procedure, or which side got the procedure and which side didn't. And again, this was after 12 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good point. And one thing I forgot to mention to start with, everything we have on this PowerPoint is public information. Normally I have the citations at the bottom. This is straight off of FDA.gov. So it takes a matter of 2 minutes to do your research. Anytime you're going to invest your money into any technology, take the 2 minutes. Search FDA.gov, see what the actual indications for use is. Because as you see here, this is for the appearance of fat loss in the abdomen and flank only.
So, and like Travis says, the difference between us and Zeltiq is we are a small privately held corporation. They went out and raised millions of dollars. We invested our money in research. They invested theirs in marketing, and they did an absolute brilliant job of marketing this device. It is by far the most requested device out there. But what most people don't know, and what we want to bring to your attention, is separating the science from the marketing. So we pulled this right off of Coolsculpting's front page yesterday. And if you can kind of read it there, it says they can reduce 20 to 25% of fat off of a pad. Now, if you're going to ask me to 20 to 25%, that's a lot of fat. Until you start really looking at what the numbers are. I was actually at a conference at Lasers and Surgery and Medicine in 2012, and I asked Dr. D. Bernardo, who was one of the researchers at the time, I go, what exactly does that 25% mean? He goes, well, they don't give us that information. I go, you know what? It's on your website. I will explain to you exactly what that means. And I think if the customers actually knew what they were losing and the side effects that were going along with this, people would not be so excited about this device. And again, we believe this is marketing.
Yeah.
And again, this is a 25% reduction in fat. That is not what their 510K says. Their 510K says it can affect the appearance of fat.
20 to 25% fat sounds really impressive, but this goes back to the FDA 510K letter that we just showed you 2 slides back. So if you keep scrolling down, this now has their clinical performance data.
So this is Coolsculpting. Again,
Coolsculpting.
we took this right off of the FDA's website. That top right picture you're going to see, this is a study done by Dover. This is probably done in 2008, 2009, where they measured the fat pad pre and post treatment. So if you look at that fat pad going from 5.8 millimeters to 7.4 millimeters, that's a 1.8 millimeter reduction. So I want you to think about what 1.8 millimeters is. So we Googled yesterday how thick that would be so you could get a visual. It's the thickness of a nickel. So what their research is saying, I can give your procedure on one side and not the other, and a doctor could see the thickness of a nickel off of one of your flanks compared to the other. My eyes are not that good. Again, this is not a reduction claim. They're affecting appearance of fat. Ours, we had a real and a placebo. So it's just a different kind of control. We had 3 different sites. People were just guessing at pictures.
One additional thing I just want to point out here. So looking at those MRI pictures, 7.2 millimeters pre-laser, 5.4 millimeters post-laser. Post-Coolsculpting, sorry. Now look at the print underneath that. This is after 4 months. So they're losing the thickness of a nickel over a 4-month period. So keep that in mind as we keep going through this. This kind of moves on to the next modality in the non-invasive fat loss realm, which is heating. We took probably the biggest name out there within that, Cynosure or the Sculpture. Very similar claim, which is to achieve a desired aesthetic effect intended for individuals with body mass of 30 BMI or less.
So again, this is their data. You can see at 12 weeks, they lost 1.785 millimeters of fat. Again, that's on a flank or 15.2% of that flank. Now, 15.2% from a marketing perspective, just like Zeltiq, sounds a whole lot better than less than a nickel. So again, the other question you should ask yourself, why are they doing this at 3 and 4 months? And we're seeing results after a week, 2 weeks, and a month. Because we're not killing anything or creating an inflammatory process, the body doesn't have to deal with all that dead material. The other thing you need to think about is the fat cells is part of your endocrine system. They're one of the most important cells that you have in your body, where ours are completely intact. They're killing them all.
So take a quick look here, what we just recap of the different technologies. Coolsculpting as well as Sculpture, they have a FDA clearance to affect the appearance of fat. So nothing that's measurable. It's a trained eye can see the difference between pre and post. Emerald has a circumference reduction in individuals of BMI up to 40. So we were able to actually measure before and after laser. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a second. The actual results, fat loss, we'll take it in millimeters. Coolsculpting 1.78 to 2.6 millimeters. Sculpture 1.785 millimeters. Emerald, we base ours off of inches. We're going to do a conversion to make this comparison easier. That's 154 millimeters off the waist, hips, and upper abs. Compare that to 1.78 off of either Coolsculpting or Sculpture. We also want to point out, and Steve brought this up, great point, our placebo group, we use a light emitting diode, had 18.10 millimeters. That means our LED actually outperformed those other technologies. And then
again, like Travis says, this is all taken off of their 510K statements and our 510K statements. The Emerald is FDA cleared for up to 30 BMI. We've done 3 blinded controlled clinical trials with our 532 nanometer green lasers. 2 of them were, one clinical trial was up to a 30 BMI, the other one was 30 to 40 BMI, and we also did one on cellulite.
Yeah, and the last category there is when you should expect the results. Coolsculpting, Sculpture, they're at 12 weeks. Emerald is at 4 weeks. Most people don't have the patience to wait 12 weeks. Nevertheless, to wait 12 weeks and only lose 1.8 millimeters.
See, what we don't have on this chart is we actually did do a follow-up 2 weeks post-treatment, and
Sure.
they continued to lose inches. And everybody asks, well, why is that? Processing fat naturally is a slow process. It takes a lot of bad lifestyle choices to start getting up to a 30 to 40 BMI. So you're going to put that weight on gradually. It's the same when you're reducing it. So when you're educating your patients, saying, look, you're going to see with, Coolsculpting, Sculpture, it's going to take you 3 months. You're going to start seeing reductions at 1 week with Emerald. And these are some of the side effects. These are adverse events. There are no known side effects with low-level laser therapy. You could see these. We put these up for, both devices, Sculpture and Coolsculpting. Coolsculpting has a lot more because they've been in the market longer. But again, these are all printed right from the FDA's website. So if you look at these, bruising, some of those adverse events, I started going through these yesterday, is people will have fat pads with both technologies that do not go away. So basically you get fibrotic material in there, then the company goes out and pays to have those surgically removed. It's nice that they're paying to get it surgically removed, but now you're going through a surgery of what you didn't want with non-invasive body contour.
Yeah, and this was actually really eye-opening. Steve, called me over to his computer just yesterday, going through, again, these are on FDA.gov. These are not minor issues. A lot of these, as Steve just mentioned, they had a result in surgery. So just looking at Coolsculpting, this list actually continues on. I just didn't have enough screen to actually show it here, but like hernia, they had 36 incidents, pain over 20. And again, these weren't minor pain complications. A lot of these actually, there was things as far as removing partial intestines and things of that sort.
So again, like Travis said, this is all public information. FDA.gov, just go in, you can put in Coolsculpting, you can put Sculpture. If you can't find it, email us, we'll get you there in like 30 seconds.
So we want to bring this one up because it's kind of hot or new on the market, I should say. There's some claims going on for muscle building and muscle tightening. Doesn't quite fit in the whole obesity market, but it's worth exploring. So let's take a quick look at, Steve, if you want to take this one of the BTL.
So, we've all heard that devices have about a 2-year shelf life, and this is an absolute perfect example. Why do they have a 2-year shelf life? There's no research to prove that they work at all. So this is BTL M-Sculpt. So we went back in, we started going through the FDA's process, and this stuff it takes time to go through this because you got to start running down who filed substantial equivalence off of who. So this BTL M-Sculpt is a powered device for vibration. There is no research on this device. There's 157 devices out here going back to 2001. So what am I saying? I am saying EM Sculpt is no different than, what's this device called again, Travis?
Muscle stimulator.
It's a muscle stimulator that was FDA cleared in 2001. So again, there's 157 different companies that have the exact same indication. Again, you can look at it right there. If you look up under the 510K, it says, you know, X amount of out of 157 devices. Just if you go on the FDA's website, go hit fda.gov, go to medical devices, hit product code, go to NGX, and NGX will list every one of these devices, and you can start doing some research by yourself. So you'll see, you know, you'll see how they kind of did this. They call it M-Sculpt, but that's not what the device is. If you go to their website, there's no device called M-Sculpt. It's called EM-100, and that's what their indication is for. And under 510K, it says they did no clinical research. So you got to watch out with medical device companies. They're always trying to sell you something and talk about how great there is, how much marketing there is. But, you know, once you buy a device like this, you invest 20, 30, 50, 80, $100,000, your patients are going to start getting treated with it because you've just made an investment. The problem is if you're not getting results and you keep treating all your other patients with it, you start getting a bad name, and then your patients won't come and see you. So take your time, do a little research. You know, this is what, you know, what we're trying to do to try to open up your mind. And I think the more you look at Emerald, you'll appreciate all the research that, you know, we have behind this device.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of the power of marketing. You know, take a lot of money, throw it at it, coin a new phrase that sounds cool, and sell it. And that's exactly what the whole BTL is doing here. It's nothing more than a muscle stimulator. All right, so let's kind of dig in real quick to the Emerald laser, the real science, the actual results that can be measured. You know, we could do an entire presentation on this, but we'll keep this down real quick to, you know, 10, 15 minutes. But starting in 1998, I wasn't around at this time, so I'll let Steve take this one.
So 1998, I met Dr. Nira at a anti-aging show in Las Vegas, Nevada. At that time, Dr. Nira didn't speak any English. He's a plastic surgeon. His wife, Clara, was a radiologist who spoke a little bit of English. We kind of worked through them. They actually bought a laser for us for wound healing. And I said, look, you know, why don't you laser them you know, at that point, we were doing some burn research. You know, we could reduce apoptosis, and you'll stop the wounds or you'll have them heal faster. He called me about 6 months later and said, you know, you're not gonna believe what happened. He goes, the fat, you know, my cannula, it's like sucking fluid instead of like sawing wood. My cannula is like going into a hot knife through butter, which is how this all started. 2000, Detroit, Michigan, World Congress of Liposuction. We actually first presented this, and I will tell you, Dr. Nayara just got absolutely torched. Everybody said this is ridiculous. No one's ever going to believe this. So we went and proved it to the FDA. So Dr. Nayara spent a fortune of his own money. This is published in 2001. That top left picture is an abdomen, person laying on their back. You can see their stomach there and all the connective tissue. 6 minutes later, all that fat is emulsified. This study for us also helped prove this depth of penetration garbage. Early on, people were saying, well, you know, that laser is never going to get deep enough to have an effect on fat. Even though we published this, it still wasn't accepted. So plastic and reconstructive surgery, we went and looked at the pore, the side of the cell. You could see that pore. Dr. Nira eventually measured the size of that cell. And we found out that that cell would actually repair itself after about 42 hours. Early on, we were doing, you know, a protocol was every other day because at 48 hours, we knew that cell would close off. So we just kept that pore open so the body could start processing fat. Dr. Arturo Ramirez, this was in Mexico. He went in and did punch biopsies every 3 minutes to an hour. You can see on the left, he did you can see the tissue on the right's the treated. So everything we do is control compared to treated. We're not just guessing. Like I said, he measured every 3 minutes. You want to go to the next slide? Yep. What we found out is after about 12 minutes, there was no point lasering anymore because the cells were empty. This further validated Dr. Nira's original research. Susan Lim from Singapore. We met her at the 2000 meeting. She was one of the only doctors that was really interested in this. She went out and said, look, I went out, bought a laser. She goes, I want to work with you guys and I want to prove this. I think you might be onto something. So again, if you looked at hers, this is now, Dr. Near's had tumescent solution, which helped the fat get out quicker. So this is actually without tumescent solution. At 18 minutes, you can see that that fat cell is like a grape with no juice. At that point, we had a pretty good idea that we could get the fat outside cell. It was perfectly alive. And this is about the time we started thinking, well, maybe we had the idea, can we start making people thinner without surgery? This is John Wolosek. This is University of Chicago, Illinois. Again, further validating this research. You'll see competitors stealing this research, calling it their own. We will tell you all our placebos were done with LEDs. We wished LEDs worked. They don't. All of our research is done with laser therapy. All our placebos is done with LEDs.
Yeah, as you guys can see, we're really blowing through a lot of this research because we could spend hours on hours of going through each one of these. It's all public information. The point of it is just to show how validated this science and the technology actually is. But kind of going to 2004 here, we actually received an FDA clearance for liposuction. This was for a couple of things. One is for post-surgical pain reduction, as well as for the ease of fat removal. So as Steve kind of showed in all those pictures, when you emulsify the fat, it makes the process of removing the fat quite a bit easier as well.
So this basically started out as a liposuction procedure, which we don't sell lasers for liposuction anymore, to a non-invasive fat procedure. So again, published in Plastic Claims of Plastic Surgery. We've been very good about filing patents. 2005, we filed a patent for non-invasive fat reduction. That didn't issue till about 10 years later. That's just the way the patents go. We had a patent device. Travis kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. We just don't build a device and create an indication. We come up with an indication and we'll go to a clinical trial. We're going to build a device for it. For non-invasive fat, you cannot stand there and laser each area for 12 minutes, or in the case of Emerald for 15 minutes, because it would take you, an hour to do the treatment. So we created a scanner to treat all the areas at the same time. So it becomes a 15-minute procedure instead of doing 15 minutes per area. That was patented in 2006.
That's a great point. We don't build, as the term goes, a Swiss Army knife that can do everything decent. We build each and every unit to do everything great. So if you look at like the Emerald, it's going to shape around the body to treat non-invasive fat loss. If you take it to even onychomycosis, we didn't want to use the same device. It wouldn't be as effective. We actually have a device where you put your foot into it. And you could take that to each and every unit that we build here.
Again, we continue to publish. This was in 2006, and you can see the size of the transitory pore. This was a textbook. 2009, Lasers in Surgery and Medicine. We printed our results, 3.5 inches off the waist, hips, and thighs within 2 weeks. That was FDA cleared in 2010. I'll go back to that one.
That one? Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually, no, this was 2009, go to 2010. Sorry, Trav. So one of the things the FDA wanted us to do is, okay, if you're releasing all this fat, what's it doing to the blood? We actually documented that the triglycerides were going down because we're not killing the fat cell. Cholesterol also went down. Now, we were making no claims, but I would suggest if you're treating obese patients, I would start doing blood work on them.
Yeah, and we'll get into that with Cesar here in a little bit.
Yeah, one thing that, we like to point out to everybody, when we're doing a blinded and controlled clinical trial, us, like our competitors, if you're going to diet, if you're going to exercise, if you're going to take vitamins, if you're going to get on a vibrational machine, you're eliminated from the clinical trial. So all these results are with placebo, and there is no other covariance we're adding to this. It is just straight laser therapy, and we're documenting if they're taking anything that we are going to eliminate them from the clinical trial. And again, 2010, 2 years after the data, the FDA had the data, that's how long it took us to get this device through. We started in 2006. We submitted the data to the FDA in 2008 and 2010. They cleared the device. And again, this was the first non-invasive body contouring. Like I said, we got this 1 month before Zelti got their Coolsculpting device through. Again, ours was 3.5 inches from the waist, hips, and thighs reduction. There's an effect appearance of fat.
Yeah, and you can see that in the actual indications for use. So if you kind of look at the bottom half there, It's for the reduction of circumference of the waist, hips, and thighs. Keep in mind, if you're in the United States, this indication for use is what you can actually market for. So whether you're going to market for appearance of fat loss or the circumference of fat loss, keep that in mind as we go through a couple more 510Ks.
And again, we did another study. This was an arm study that we did. The reason why we did this study is because we wanted to even further prove that the fat was long-term effects. The problem when you're treating the waist, hips, and thighs, and you're looking at long-term is, if people's lifestyle choices, they have a tendency to go back towards them. With your arms, you're not going to get a lot of fat in your arms in a 10-month period, which we measured here. So what we found is after 10 months, the fat did not come back. Now the waist, hips, and thighs, if they go back to their old lifestyles, it's probably going to come back. And again, we consider this almost like the carrot. We don't use diet and exercise. We highly suggest, especially for your obese patients, that if I was a clinician, which I am not, I would definitely have them doing diet and exercise with this.
Yeah, as a company, we knew it, but this actually proved that the laser not only worked on waist, hips, and thighs, it worked on extremities, such as arms. We actually, I don't want to steal the thunder, but now we do have a FDA clearance for whole body indication, so you can treat anything from neck down. But Steve, yeah, if you want to take this guy here.
Yeah, so this was our 2012 510K for arm reduction. Travis, if you just go back one slide, and I'm sorry, yeah, that 3.7 centimeter reduction in the arms, compare that to the 2 millimeters with Coolsculpting and the 2 millimeters with Sculpture. So again, we continue to publish. This was an independent study on 689 patients, proving that we're not doing fat distribution. We've been trying to prove this and have people look at this for years.
This is a good study because we actually measured, so we treated waist, hips, and thighs, but we measured everything from waist, ankle, calf, elbow, which those systemic effects actually had a reduction in those areas, which wasn't the point we're trying to make. What we're trying to show is we're not redisputing the fat, as Steve mentioned.
So about 2012, we started looking at, based on a theory we had, well, not theory, but based on physics, there's 22% more energy in a green photon than a red photon. We never bought into this, more penetration, more power stuff. If that's true, then we should be able to reduce our treatment time by 5 minutes. So that's exactly what we did with the green laser. And again, we went back to the exact same clinical trial as our original Zirconia, waist, hips, and thighs.
This one's the cellulite.
Oh, sorry, this was cellulite. But we also did thigh circumference measurement on this one also, which reduced the thigh circumference measurement. 532 nanometers happens to be the peak absorption of collagen, which as you're making these obese patients look thinner, theoretically, you should be noticing that in the skin. Because obviously we know if you're doing bariatric surgery or if you're going on these crash diets, the skin often doesn't keep up and it gets really lax and loose. So we feel that this could be an answer to help with some of that skin retraction.
So results-wise, what we actually see from this study here is the average subject dropped 1 scale in the Nuremberg-Muller, which means I guess if you put that in percentage-wise, it's 25% because there's 4 different categories. We actually, I don't think I have a slide in here on it. We did receive a 510K clearance for the reduction of cellulite using the green laser.
So we did get a patent for that. So we have a patent, pretty much anything in visible length if you're using low-level laser therapy below 1 watt, just to show you how we innovate. And go ahead, Trav.
Yep.
So anyway, you can go this
sorry.
I'm
this
sorry.
guy? Yeah.
So with the green laser compared to the red laser, we're doing 5 minutes less treatment and we're getting a better result. We believe that's because the first law of photochemistry is for the laser to work, it's got to be absorbed. If it's absorbing a photon, you want a photon with more energy. If you're turning up the power, you're not increasing the energy in the photons. All you do is increase the number of photons. So if the side of that cell wall can only absorb so many photons, we want as much energy as possible. So again, you can see the results between the test and the placebo group. This was about 4.5 inches compared to 3.5 inches. And this was up to a 30 BMI. And you can see that happened in 2012. I think it might have been 2013. But anyway, go ahead.
January 25th, 2025. 13th, we actually started the obesity study. So we looked at just patients or subjects between 30 to 40 BMI, and that was 12 treatments. And as Steve mentioned already, there was no diet or exercise. When we talked to Cesar, we're not against diet and exercise. We think it's great, but we just want to improve laser only here.
And again, when you look at some of these other devices that don't use placebos, how do you know those patients weren't on taking something, or maybe they were exercising, maybe they were doing something? We don't know. We can tell you with our device, it's real laser, no diet, no exercise. So again, this is our results on our obese patients. We lost 6 inches. And again, 2 weeks later, like I mentioned, they continue to lose inches. Again, while the body's processing fat. 12 weeks, or I'm sorry, 4 weeks of treatment is not a lot for someone who has these patients that have these bad lifestyle choices. Obviously, we're trying to get an indication through the FDA. If it was me, I would start looking at 3 months, 6 months, even maintenance programs for these people for long-term and taking it off slowly. And again, the FDA cleared this for obesity. This was the first device that was cleared for obesity in 2014. Mayo Clinic. We've been doing research with the Mayo Clinic. Nice thing about doing research with the Mayo Clinic is they do not want to have to list anything or anybody's paying for the research. So they actually bought a laser from us, and they wanted to go out and try to prove this either worked or it didn't work. So Ivana, the PhD up there, Travis and I were just back up there in March. We're doing another protocol with them. They had a Locaricin, which is a weight loss drug, with this. And then she did another study looking at our protocol using treatments of once a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week. No cost to us, love her for that, and helps take this research further. I would tell you right now, her protocol, what she proved, 2 times a week is the best protocol. I think that's great for obese patients. You can motivate them when they come back in your office. You can check what their lifestyle choices are like. And with Locaricin, the drug didn't really help. Although she documented all our inch loss, pretty much the same thing we got. By taking that drug, it actually didn't help. All this is published. You guys can read this. You can email it to us. Happy to send it to you.
All right, so here's a quick, I think looks like 1 minute video on just a demonstration of the Emerald. All right, so that leads us to the end of the research portion of the webinar. Again, everything that we went over today is published. So if you would like the articles, feel free to reach out to myself. I'll put my contact information here at the end of the slide. But now we're going to hand it over to Dr. Cesar Lara. And before I do want to mention that he's been using the Erchonia devices for non-invasive fat loss since 2016. So even the predecessor to the Emerald laser. Why I feel that's important, he is not just a hired speaker. He's actually invested his money, his resources into this technology. And that's going to give us the most passionate and honest response to a lot of these questions that you guys have laid out here. So with that being said, Dr. Cesar, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you. It was a nice presentation, and thank you for having me as a participant and to share some of my experience and perspective.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking your time out of your practice as well. Some of the questions that we had here from the participants of the webinar was, oh yes, Dr. Lord, you want to explain a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
And I guess the couple different clinics and things like that you own here in Florida.
Yes. So I am a board certified family doctor. That was my passion. I grew up in the Midwest in Chicago and went to medical school in University of Iowa, and subsequently did my residency in Chicago, and then decided to move and put up my shingle here in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, and been practicing for approximately a good 30 years, and was a solid primary care doctor for the first 15 years. And then somewhere along the line, I felt that I wasn't really making a significant difference in being able to affect my patients' lives. And I started transitioning to more of a lifestyle medicine, which really focused on the prevention of diseases and really trying to eradicate the problems that our patients face on a daily basis, whether that be heart attacks, diabetes, all of you know the multitude of chronic diseases out there. And of course, obesity is one of the primary chronic diseases that really is associated with affecting all the other chronic diseases. So we do know that obesity is going to exacerbate coronary heart disease, is going to exacerbate chronic inflammatory problems, including diabetes. And of course, the lifestyle of those individuals becomes significantly more limited, and eventually they end up becoming patients as they get older, where they need to see doctors and specialists every 3 months, if not more often. And so I wanted to change the way that my patients were being affected, and started transitioning and became board certified in obesity medicine, and then later on went on to develop extensive expertise and advanced training when it came to advanced hormone optimization and replacement. And since then have also done a lot of training in terms of looking at energy medicine and understanding thoughts and understanding a lot of different patterns of energy and how we can affect patients by being able to understand energetic fields. So that's bringing a little bit more of the Eastern perspectives into the Western philosophy. So today, I basically practice a holistic approach to medicine, basically focusing on obesity as my primary therapy, and then helping support with hormone optimization where need be, in addition to helping people heal themselves by understanding the effects of emotions and thoughts, and how we create our own reality in terms of our own experiences. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I have right now 2 active offices here in the community. I used to have 4, but over the last couple of 2-3 years, I've decided that I was becoming a little bit too running around different places, and I wanted to make myself more efficient and be more present for my patients, and have begun to also do a lot more studying and trying to impact the community by doing a lot more speaking. And I'm in the midst of also writing books so that I can help educate and motivate the community to bring home their ability to heal themselves from within. And so within that context, I began the process approximately 15 years ago, really helping my patients achieve their healthy weight. And of course, when that happens, I got rid of diabetes type 2, got rid of hypercholesterolemia, hypertension, decreased the risk factors for cancer, all the chronic medical problems, not to mention that I gave my patients back their sense of energy, their sense of well-being. And so this has been my space for the last 15 years. And so in that journey, obviously I have a significant experience in how to help patients in multiple areas. And there was an interest in looking at what technologies were out there. And of course, the Coolsculpting kept coming up. But then when I went through one of the Obesity Medical Association conferences that I'm an active participant in, I got to see a demonstration of the green light therapy, and I didn't believe it. I said, this has to be this can't be true. You just put somebody there laying in the table and you're going to put a light on them and then they're going to lose an inch. That doesn't sound right. So of course, I'm kind of looking at the presentation, and then they said, you want, so, you know, is somebody out there want to be a volunteer so we can do a one treatment before and after so you can actually see it. And I thought, boy, I wonder if they paid this guy. And anyway, I was extremely very reluctant to kind of believe that what I was hearing was really true. But it did lead me to begin to take a little more time to really investigate the studies, you know, recognize that this really was, they had not paid the person who volunteered, but it was another colleague of ours that just happened to be walking around listening to the presentation. And I began to have a lot more interest. And as indicated earlier, I bought my first machine approximately in 2016, and it's been a definite game changer for the experience of my patients, as well as from the perspective of my satisfaction in being able to help my patients achieve their healthy weight. And of course, from a business perspective, economic perspective, is significantly less expensive than, say, a Coolsculpting machine. But it's not just less expensive in terms of what it's going to cost me, but more importantly, less expensive in terms of how much it's going to cost a patient to get the therapy that we're going to be able to provide for them. And so it appeared to me to be a good experience. And literally the biggest issue for me in anything that I do has to be with, is it in the best interest for my patients? If you're going to try to sell me that it's a good business, that it's going to make you money, I've been sold a lot of bridges in the past, and I've come to appreciate who I am in this journey in life. And I really, my whole purpose is to empower my patients to learn to heal themselves from within. And this is the light that I walk in. And so the Coolsculpting world did not appeal to me because it was really destroying what I consider to be a primary part of the endocrine system. As you know, in obesity, we talk about sick adipocytes, and that's what obesity is. It's a disease of the adipocyte cells. It's not necessarily that those cells should not be there, because they were put there like all the other cells were put in our body with some good purpose and good, and so the science of our body is a perfect body, but yet when we end up eating too many toxins, when we end up eating too many calories, when we end up having significant challenges in our life that increases our cortisol levels, and we don't sleep well, and you know the routine of how people get overweight and obese, our fat cells come to really support us and to really absorb all this stuff that doesn't serve our body. And so it's really a fat cell disease more than anything else. And so the last thing I want to do is to kill the fat cells. My intention is to help heal those fat cells, as my intention is to make my patients whole and help them heal themselves from within. And so the laser therapy has been a great addition. It complements my nutritional plan, complements my behavioral therapy, complements my long-term management of my patients. It literally is a complementary experience for all of my patients. Not to mention that there's patients who specifically come with the idea of, can you help me reduce my breast size? My insurance will not cover a breast reduction, and I have backaches, and so we can do breast reductions, we can do chin reductions, we can do arm reductions, we can literally get rid of the love handles all day long. And so it's very much able to do the contouring, is very much able to do the ability to improve the appearance of cellulite. So patients are coming in with horrific looking legs in terms of the cellulite appearance, and over a period of time, those cellulite appearance significantly improves. And of course, in addition to that, is really helping me with my patients. The average patient in my practice needs to release at least 50 to 60 pounds. I definitely have, at least a handful, a couple of handfuls of patients that are in the 200, 300 pound category. Right now I have a lady that's actually coming in at 350. She's doing my nutritional plan with the holistic approach, and she's doing the laser therapy to complement it. And of course, we're seeing significant improvements in how she's able to release, change her perspectives, learn to eat healthy. So my intention obviously is not just to help someone release the weight. Ultimately, my goal is to help those patients continue to keep their healthy weight life for life. And so that's kind of a little maybe long introduction of who I am, but I can elaborate in any of those areas that you would like me to. And more than anything else, I like to share some light in some of the areas that perhaps you have some questions on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lara. Yeah, and I can personally testify, meeting Dr. Lara and going to his clinic, there are few, if any, doctors I've ever met that are as passionate as yourself. You did, the cool thing is you actually answered a couple of these questions that were hanging out there, like, why did you choose zirconia? I think you got on that one.
So I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. So obviously, I chose zirconia because it really seems to be evidence-based, and I actually ended up having a couple, before I bought it, they actually came into my office, brought the machine. I was able to put somebody on the table, had picked up a couple of patients, and were able to see that within one treatment, right there in front of my eyes, we measuring the waist, and specifically in the area that we measure, because we have, there's a methodology that is utilized so that you know exactly where you're measuring, so that the next time that you remeasure is the same exact area, not just measuring the abdomen and then trying to make it look like somehow I measured at the biggest area. Now I'm going to measure in the smallest area so that I can make the person think that they release something. This is very much above board. And so definitely that was something that I saw immediately within one treatment, patients losing 3/4 of an inch, an inch and a half. And I said, wow, this is really something. And so and then on top of that was the part that I wasn't killing the endocrine system. I was actually helping heal it. And of course, the ultimate healing was going to be by adjusting the lifestyle that those patients were living, because it wasn't just, somebody can come in, wants to lose 2 inches so they can get into the dress, so they can go to that black tie event that they want to. Yes, we can do that all day long. But if they don't change their lifestyle over a period of the next 2-3 months, they're going to be back to where they were. So the intention is really to help patients begin to adjust their behavioral modification. And then the other parts that were really impressive to me is that with Coolsculpting, you literally have to have 2 plates, and you have to get the fat inside those plates and then squeeze it. And so what happens in between the areas that you squeeze the plate, where you squeeze the fat, there definitely you can see a lot of this very unusual looking skin. So you kind of see some tightening in some areas, but some loosening in between. And so that part of it was not as effective. And then the biggest part for me was that in the obesity treatments, one of the biggest challenges that we have as obesity physicians is to limit the amount of lean body mass that a person loses, and to maximize the amount of fat that a person loses. So we're looking at a ratio, and typical ratios within the context of the bariatric mentality is that a 1-to-3 ratio is acceptable. So that means that if you lose 10 pounds, it's acceptable for you to lose an average of 3.5 pounds of actual lean body mass for those other 6 or 7 pounds that you may have released of actual fat. With the green laser therapy, I can actually maximize my ability of fat release and minimize my ability to maintain, or actually minimize my ability to lose too much of the lean body fat. So I actually have been able to bring that down to about 1/5 to 1/4, depending on the individual. So that means that for every 10 pounds of actual weight that a person releases or loses, instead of me realizing that I just ended up decreasing their metabolism because they lost 3 to 4 pounds of actual muscle from those 10 pounds, I actually now have been able to decrease that to an average of 2, maybe the most 2.5 pounds for every 10 pounds that they release. So that improves my outcomes a lot better. Of course, the patients feel happier. They have an improvement in their lean body mass while maximizing their ability to lose fat. So that's in a nutshell the multiple points that went into my decision making. Not to mention that the price appeared to be significantly better than a Coolsculpting machine, and so it seemed to me to be the right approach. And I have not questioned it since I started. It only continues to give me more and more reassurances.
Dr. Lara, this is Steve. Hey,
Yes.
early on, we were doing, we were looking at pretty much every mechanism we could, DEXA scan. One of the things we looked at was like leptin reduction, which, we noticed we were seeing big reductions of leptin, which, normally correlates to less hunger. I don't know if you do that, but anecdotally, have your patients kind of, said that, I feel like I'm not as hungry? Because
Yes,
that's the biggest problem.
Yes, definitely patients will express that they're not as hungry, so I don't need to use as much anti-obesity medicine, such as phentermine, diethylpropion, or phendimetrazine, or some of the newer other products that have come about. I literally can give my patients perhaps just a little touch of something to help decrease some of the cravings that they may have. But yes, it definitely correlates with me utilizing less anti-obesity medicines in those individuals that are actually using the laser therapy, as opposed to those who choose not to do the laser therapy.
Hey, next question I have for you, and unfortunately, we're seeing some of these questions, but, obviously when we're doing a clinical trial, everybody gets the same protocol. Clinical trial over 4 weeks, everybody's getting the same protocol. Do you have different protocols for different size patients? Do you treat them for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? Does it vary? Or, I'm just curious how your practice works. I'm doing this for, just so people could start thinking about, okay, how do I incorporate this into my practice? Because, we don't suggest.
So I have one patient that has that comes to mind that has released, I think, 100 pounds, and I would say she has, in the last 2 years, she probably has been utilizing the laser therapy. If you're going to look at 24 months, she probably has been utilizing that laser therapy, I would say at least 20 of those 24 months. We have done her arms, we have done her breast, we have done her chest, we have done their legs, we have done everything. And so definitely patients that are significantly heavier and who have a lot more weight to release are going to be prime candidates for multiple therapies. And so in general, many times my protocol is when they come in, we have what is called a whole body transformation. So what that means is that the individual will begin to be part of our behavioral modification, nutritional plan, and supplement support system. And at the same time, they will become part of our laser therapy. And in those individuals, many times I will not start them on it in the first month. I will normally start them on the second month, and that way it gives me a chance to really see how well they're doing with the nutrition, how well they're going. A lot, as you know, in the experience of most patients that are trying to release weight, the first couple of weeks seem to be a lot more, they tend to release a lot more weight, especially in the first week. Second week, they release a little bit more. By the time you get to the third or the fourth week, they begin to have a more consistent, maybe 2 pounds a week, 3 pounds a week, depending how heavy they started. Sometimes it's 5 pounds a week, depending on their circumstances. So by introducing the Form Novel right around the 4th or the 6th week, when they're starting to get like, oh, gee, I'm not releasing as much as I did the first 2 or 3 weeks, all of a sudden we add the Form Novel and it begins to be a game changer again for them. Other patients, I actually start them on day 1 because they end up releasing so much in the first month in terms of their appearance, because they're really shrinking their waist. They're really, and they may not be releasing as much weight. So if an average individual releases 15 to 20 pounds in 1 month of my behavioral modification and nutritional plan, with the Form Novel, they may, with the laser therapy, they will be able to release maybe an additional 20% of weight. So it's not a large amount of weight, but they end up releasing significant larger amounts of inches. So their whole experience begins to be a lot more, now they're excited, they can fit into better clothes, they're buying into my program, they can't wait to buy another 8 or 15 or therapies so that they can continue on that journey. So it works by being able to put it at the beginning. It works by being able to put it in the middle. It works by somebody who said, you know, I just want to do this. I just want to do your nutritional plan, and then I'll see how I am at the end. A lot of people at the end are using it basically for contouring, tightening up their skin, being able to release those little areas where it's just hard, especially around the legs, in the inner thighs. Those areas tend to be the hardest one to release, and so patients are very happy with that.
Okay, cool. And that actually kind of ties into this next question one of the doctors had, which is, how do you present the Emerald to a new patient in your clinic? I know you kind of talked about the whole body transformation. Is that basically, is that how you get the point across, or?
Yeah, so basically we introduce it on the first and second week. So the first week is usually what happens when you come into my office as a new patient. The first thing that we do is, I want to hear that patient's story, right? So patient may say something like, oh, since I turned 40, you know, I gained 20 pounds, or somebody may say, you know, I've gained and lost 3 times my body size over the last 20 years. So there's always a different story. So the reason that becomes important is because whatever a person's story is tends to haunt them, and they tend to make their beliefs, their belief system is tied to that. So it gives me an opportunity to really work with the mindset, begin to make some adjustments. Then I begin to really focus a little bit more on the physical aspects of obesity, talking about the gastric biome, talking about toxins. So it kind of gets into that. And then with the introduction now of the laser therapy, it really begins to be more of a complement. So, you know, we have this amazing laser therapy, it's non-invasive. Would you like to have a free trial? You know, some people who have a lot more means, many times will just buy the whole total body transformation off the bat. Other people who are a little bit more limited with their funds may want to be a little more proof, may want to wait a little longer. But we try to introduce the idea of being able to more efficiently and effectively release the excess weight that is the most cumbersome and bothersome to them, by being able to start, if possible, from within the first 2 weeks of their when they come into our practice. And you know, all my staff is trained that if no one's using it, they'll bring the patient in to show them how it works. Most people look like, oh wow, that looks nice, and all I gotta do is lay there and look at my emails or listen to a nice podcast, and yes, that's all you need to do. And you know, it's literally a very relaxing time for patients, and so it tends to be very much in that direction. And I try to encourage my staff to continually educate the patients, to continually show them the product, to show them, you know, we have before and after pictures in every patient room, so that patients, while they're waiting for the doctor or the practitioner to come in to review their weekly progress, they can begin to take a look at it. They ask questions. I have webinars for my patients. So we have a significant amount of different funnels where the people are hearing and trying to engage in becoming part of that experience.
Awesome. One of the questions was, I get just off the top of your head, what percentage of your laser patients are bariatric?
All of them. Oh, no, well, I'm a bariatric practice. I would say 95% of them are because that's what I specialize in. So you know, people are coming to me because they want to lose inches. Now, not all of them have a BMI of 50. I would say the average BMI is probably running around 37, you know, 35, somewhere within that context. You know, they're the 50-pound excess weight that I need to take care of. But yes, there's definitely, I would say, maybe a good 5-8% of my patients that are coming in truly for, you know, because I do age management, so I do hormone optimization. And so a lot of those patients within that context are actually very fit, but they have the love handles, they got the chin under there, they have the problems with the chin, is double chin, they have the problems with their arms no matter what they do, especially females. They have their issues with their inner legs, you know, no matter what they do, especially in the females, inner legs rub with one another, they don't like it. So we definitely, I would say in my practice, maybe 10% is actual contouring, and the other 90% is a combination of obesity management, obesity therapy, that and the contouring goes with it, because obviously it tightens up the skin in addition to helping release the excess weight more effectively.
Awesome. And then I'll tell you what, I'll ask you one, we got several more questions, but with full respect to your time, I know you got a full practice you got to get back to. I'll ask you one more question that was on the list here. And that was, I guess it's a twofold question. Do you market to the technology? And then the second portion of it, if you do not mind sharing, what do you charge per package?
Yes, so we definitely market the technology. Right now, I just created a new website. My new website just came in on in approximately 2 months ago, and do a lot of Google, do a lot of social media. Don't do any more television. Don't do any more radio. Have only one billboard that's close to my office to again bring attention to that particular office location. But otherwise, most of our advertising is really with Google, our website, and some social media, in addition to a lot of talks that I give to the community at many different aspects. So we are definitely now highlighting as a matter of fact, we're now in the middle of starting a new campaign that is going to specifically at this time of the year begin to target the emerald laser as the primary source. And so we're working towards that. And I believe that the cost for the a package of 8, I believe is approximately $3,800. And then depending on the circumstances, we might give a patient $200, $300 off. So we kind of sometimes put the price a little bit higher, and then be able to then, you know, if you act now, you get $300 off. So we kind of utilize a little bit of that marketing to kind of fish the patient to act now. But at the end of the day, we're probably collecting for a typical 8 therapy, we're collecting approximately about $3,500 for that. When we go to the 12, we're looking at about, you know, $4,500, and then it goes up from there. And so we work with the patients. I develop payment plans for them. We have developed different opportunities for them to be able to make those payments.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really valuable information. Now that we're over an hour. I tell you what, with respect to everyone's time, including Dr. Lara, we'll go ahead and call it a day. But there are a couple unanswered questions. I'll make sure Dr. Lara answer those via email, or we can even set up a personal call. He's always been more than kind enough to take out his personal time for us. With that being said, though, if there's any questions directed towards Erchonia, the research, the cells, feel free to give us a call. The toll-free line is 1-888-242-0571. Again, that's 1-888-242-0571, and we'll be more than happy to answer that. With that being said, I feel glad all you guys took the time to join us today, and have a great day.
Thank you.